This is MC Fireside Chats, a weekly show featuring conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and outdoor hospitality experts who share their insights to help your business succeed. Hosted by Brian Searl, the founder and CEO of Insider Perks, and powered by insights from Modern Campground, the most innovative news source in the industry.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. My name is Brian Searl with Insider Perks. Super excited to be here with you for our fourth week RV industry focused episode. Where did Shane go? I was in the middle of my intro and I looked down. I'm like, Shane, he's gone. There he is. Here. That's terrible timing, Shane.
I know. I'm sorry.
Do you realize that the only reason people watch the show is to see you? We probably just lost half of our audience.
I don't think anybody realizes that, Brian.
Everyone.
I only come to see Shane.
Even the guests only come to see you. So super excited to be here with you guys. We're excited to talk about the RV industry and all those kinds of things. We have a couple of our recurring guests, Susan Carpenter from the RV Women's Alliance and Shane Devenish from CRVA, and one special guest here. We rarely have special guests, I feel like, on the show. But Angie Diedrich, did I pronounce that right?
You did.
From the Wisconsin RV Dealers Alliance. So super excited to have you guys here. Do you want to briefly go around, just start with Susan? We can go to Shane, and then obviously Angie. Just introduce yourselves a little bit about your respective companies for those people who don't know.
Yeah, so of course, as Brian said, I'm Susan Carpenter with the RV Women's Alliance. We've been, we're a 501c6, and we're an association where men and women can come together and support women by empowering and educating and networking amongst ourselves, and to really kind of lift women up in this industry. It's very male-dominated industry, as we all know, but we all love this industry. So we just kind of created this group. We have over 3,500 members supporting over 500 companies. And we do a lot of different things. We do a lot of education. Next month is Women's Equality Day on August 26th, where RVDA, RVTI, which, or I should spell it out, the RV Dealers Association, the RV Industry Association, and the RV Technical Institute and RV Women's Alliance, we're all coming together in Elkhart at the RVTI classroom, school, and we're going to celebrate that day. So we do events like that. So that's what's going on with us, and it should be fun and exciting.
Susan, I think we could push this forward faster. We just need to start a campaign to get all the men fired. Because we both know that men working anywhere is a bad idea when you could have a woman working there instead, right? Like, I stipulate that.
We love our counterparts. We really do. And there's a lot of men.
We love them, but like all spare, like one smarter than the other typically. It is what it is. Facts are facts, right? So, how you doing over there, Shane?
Well, not so good anymore, right?
Go ahead, please, Shane.
I'm Shane from the Canadian Recreational Vehicles Association up here in Burlington, Ontario. And our members are the same or similar to the RV Industry Association, manufacturers and suppliers. I'm a very proud member of the RVDA, and the CRVA and our show loves to support RVDA annually during our Toronto Spring Camping and RV show every March. So we've got great plans for next year, Susan, and we're going to support you again. And,
awesome.
and it's always great to be on the show, even though I am a male. So
yeah, they don't need any more of your money, Shane. They just need you to resign.
Well, we'll take his money too.
Quickest path to more women as executives.
Our show director is Shannon O'Callahan. She is a female in the face of the show, if that matters.
Of course it matters. I'm just messing with you, Shane.
I know.
Right?
We
Angie,
need
welcome.
more Shanes and Brians in this world that support it.
Angie's terrified. She doesn't want to, like, what did I do? Committing to this.
Hey, well, I'm Angie Diedrich. I'm the executive director of the Wisconsin RV Dealers Alliance. So we're kind of a newer state association, just started in 2016, and we represent the towable side of the industry because the motorized side of the industry is actually represented by our Auto Dealers Association here in Wisconsin, because that's where all their laws and regulations fall under. So.
So tell us. So let's start with you, Angie, because you're, and I'm sure Shane and Susan will have some, questions for you as well that are much more educated than mine are. I come from mostly the campground side. So talk to us about why was the RV Dealers Alliance necessary from your perspective?
Yeah, well, they hardly had any regulation or dealer protections behind there, and there's just a lot of problems going on in Wisconsin with people's lines getting stolen between different companies and things like that. So they wanted some laws to back things up and also to help protect their businesses in like transfer and stuff like that from succession, because a lot of them were family owned businesses at the time this started. But now since COVID and some people kind of had issues with inventory and stuff like that, we've kind of come into play with a lot of bigger dealers in our state, which has kind of been pretty interesting. But yeah, the goal that they started with to get some of that legislation, we were happy it got passed this year finally. So they were able to celebrate, and now they got everything that they hoped for out of it, and it's going wonderful. So yeah, the law goes into effect October 1st. So they're very excited about that.
So is it fair to say that the primary role of your organization right now is lobbying? Or
yeah, that's pretty much all we do is lobbying. We used to do some kind of technical training and things like that. It was another thing they wanted. We'd have like Lippert and Dometic come in and do some classes, but since COVID, everything kind of moved online, and that's kind of where it's been ever since. So we're just focusing more on the lobbying part and helping them out that way.
So I don't know, Shane, if you have any thoughts or you can contribute this, Shane or Susan. Obviously, this would be a great question to ask Phil, who's not here, unfortunately, with us this week, but from the RVDA. So how would the national organization work with, like, are there other state alliances besides Wisconsin? Are there state, like up here we have Alberta RVDA in Canada, right? The provinces have their own individual RVDAs. Is that how it works in the States, or pardon my ignorance?
Yeah, it is that way. So, yep, they have, there aren't as many as we'd hope for, but yeah, there's definitely a number, at least half the states have some kind of an association, or like the whole New England section, they're kind of under one association. Yep. So yeah, they're there to help each other out and protect the dealers' rights and promote what they need. And they do a lot of, I know over in the New England one, they do a lot of camping shows, which is great. RV shows, same in Florida, their organization does great RV shows. So it does Michigan. Michigan's fabulous with that. So yeah.
Well, and that was my question. Like, is the primary focus like here, like, well, not here, but on the campground side, which I'm much more familiar with, the state associations in the United States will typically take on more of that lobbying legislative effort, because the national organization just simply does not have the time to go through every single state and every single legislature and make all the contact. It's just impossible, right? And so that's a great, like, kind of 1-2 punch to have national covered and then to have state covered. And so I understand how that works, but then I'm also hearing like they're doing some outreach for RV shows and things like that as well in some of the states, right?
Yeah, definitely. One nice thing about our legislation is actually the RV Industry Association hired a lobbyist to help lobby with us. So this was kind of like a partnership to get these dealer protection laws into place. And we actually started with model legislation that RVIA and RVDA had come together to, they both had a common interest in it and had agreed upon. So we started with that and kind of tweaked it to Wisconsin and added some things in and stuff like that. And that's how it came to be. But they were actually a fabulous partner in helping us get this legislation passed. So I really like seeing that, because when it first started, this association, there was kind of like tension between the two groups.
Yeah, they didn't know what you did or when you were going to step on their toes. And
but now it just seems like the two groups are working together very well and trying to help each other out, which I really like with the RV Technical Institute, helping launch things like that where you get tech training, and then, and so RVIA will take that side of it, and RVDA kind of takes the side of getting the underwriters and, all the different kind of compliance training and things like that. So it's really, I've seen it blossomed in this short time period, and it's wonderful. So.
And I think that's one of the things, like Shane, you can speak to this, right? Like that's one of the things that surprised me. And, again, I don't know as much about the RV industry side, but when I came to Canada from the United States and first, really started getting involved with, at the time, CCRVC, now CCRVA, they keep changing their name on me. I can't keep up. But everybody just got together or got along, right? Like the RV industry and the campground side and the manufacturers and the suppliers, and like everybody was just working together in this one kind of, like, obviously it's never fully cohesive, with nothing is, right, with so many people involved, but way much more cohesive than what I was used to in the States. Just talk to maybe a little bit about how that is so beneficial, Shane.
Everybody's got the same interest of, for as a whole. Some associations might have an interest themselves, and they often they have to put those aside for the betterment of, as much as they can, for the betterment of the whole. And I think that's where Canada's been so successful. We all listen to each other's concerns, and we try to work together to kind of meet the common interest without sacrificing the needs of any one individual association, if that makes any sense. Angie, I got a question for you. You're relatively new. What has been the biggest hurdles getting something going? And
yeah,
since the beginning.
Yeah, membership is definitely, trying to get as many dealer members as you can in there, because some of them are like, well, I can get this for free if I just wait, kind of thing. So it's more like trying to see the need of speaking as a large group together, that it takes a lot of people to be able to, change the minds of legislators and things like that. Because they do ask those questions: how many members do you have, and how many dealers are actually in the state? So they want to know how much you represent. So it's that's
because they want to know how much it's going to impact the people who vote for them, right?
Right. Yeah.
How many dealers do you have in the state of Wisconsin?
Dealers, we have close to, registered dealers from our Department of Transportation. There's actually about 114, but campgrounds can also register to be a dealer, which is very unusual in Wisconsin. So they can have a manufacturer line that they can sell as seasonal campsites and stuff into their community, and people can buy directly through the campground that they like to go to. So about street retailers, I would say there's probably close to 90. So.
Yeah. And how many are in your association?
We have about 45 in our association.
Good for you.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's been good. And but we're starting to see a lot of that change, because we have a lot of those larger companies or auto dealers actually who didn't do RVs before, but got into it during the pandemic or right after, or like, they're gung-ho, and they have a lot of different, they'll have, one of them has the most dealerships in our state. I think they have 11 locations now, and they were an auto dealer that was mostly in Illinois. So they saw the signs and jumped in the right time. So.
I think that's typical when you're talking about percentage of how many joined you at the beginning. There's some people that drive change, and others that just want to sit back and wait for everybody else to do the work and then benefit from it, and either join in later or never join in and just still enjoy the benefit of it. So
right.
Amazing
Well,
job.
a lot of that is some of them don't even see that they're being impacted by it either,
Yeah.
right? This
Right.
is like
Mhm.
sometimes you can have the association call or visit or email, and then I didn't even realize this was happening, and this is impacting me, and then they'll join and they'll care, and then you get other people who just you have to literally it's like waiting. Well, that's the whole. We're not going to get into the discussion, right? But the whole AI
Right.
thing that I
Right.
preach. That like most people just aren't going to pay attention to it until they get laid off from their job and replaced by AI.
Right.
No matter how much you tell them, right?
Right.
Then it becomes an issue.
Yeah, it takes initiative. So like I've got all kinds of crazy ideas for you, Angie, if you want them. Like, I mean, membership drives great. Like, have you ever considered, like, you talk to a dealer and they're like, well, I haven't had anything was stolen, right? Or what you said? Like stolen and
Well,
transferred.
it was just lines like manufacturers would give a line to another client across the street who would sell more, and it would be like a week notice. So this dealer had invested a lot of advertising and everything into it, and then now all of a sudden they can't sell that line. So I mean, that's what I mean by stolen. So yeah.
Okay.
So
I was going
is
to suggest you set up like a gang of robbers or something and go steal.
No, that's just the catalytic.
And then call the
converter
next day
stuff.
and be like, hey, have you ever had anything stolen from you? That the association is here to protect you. Really? You have? It happened yesterday?
yeah, right.
Wow.
So your law kind of protects a certain territory, kind of like auto dealerships that, if they sell within you sell this person and they're protected within so many mile radius, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, to a point. We just didn't have where a manufacturer could take away a line just, without notice in there, because there was no written agreements required and things like that. So now there's provisions in there for you have to have a 90-day notice and give a reason and give the dealer a right to cure and things like that. So
Yeah, to take it away and give it to the guy across the street in a week's notice is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Shame on them for that. But
yeah. Well,
What
you
if
see, the salesperson's trying to make the sale. So,
What if you're selling a line and then you realize that manufacturer is not making good quality products? Can you just, like, in the middle of the night, dump your inventory on the other dealer's lot and just here you go?
Yeah. Yep.
Does
No,
that work
they
that
have.
way too, or?
Yeah. No, the protections go both ways in Wisconsin. So the manufacturer has to have a right to cure too. So it's a very good law there. So
that's very fair. So are you kind of leading that? I mean, we've got how many states here, and Canada, Providences in Canada. So this may be a stupid question because they don't know a lot about this kind of stuff, but is that normal not to have that protection in a state or province, or is that more of the rule of thumb that is in place?
No, most of them do have some sort of protection, but they're just trying to like beef it up and change things. I think about 14 or 16 states now might have similar legislation like we have. They started in Florida and kind of tested it and found out what worked and what didn't and kind of adjusted things. But yeah, that's the goal, is to kind of go into each state and make sure each state has similar, because it also helps the relationship with the manufacturer so they know, what to do. If every state's kind of cohesive, it's kind of nice, because then they're not like, what are we doing over here in Oregon? Okay, now in Florida, we got to do this. And it's, it just makes life a lot easier, I think, for everyone. So
most of those agreements just set out expectations. We expect or want you to, stock so many and buy so many. And in return, we'll give you such a big territory. Now, if, for whatever reason, things change, then, I think it's open to the others, each side to kind of talk about it. But as far as I know, most dealers have, and manufacturers have, some kind of a dealer agreement. I haven't heard, and it's great that, your state now has some protection like that, because I would hate to, and I've been involved in the finance end of things where, some dealers did lose the line, and then you'd have a competing dealer in the same city, stocking up. And how do you get rid of? Because a lot of times maybe you would be cut off on your warranty, right? So it's really hard in those situations to kind of get through that.
But what is is there a financial incentive, generally speaking, for a manufacturer to move a line from one dealer to the other?
Only if you have a guy, maybe as an example, one guy's carrying manufacturer A and he has a dealer agreement, and then he's, maybe not pleased with that manufacturer, takes on manufacturer B, and then mostly stocks in manufacturer B. So the financial incentive for the manufacturer is to move it to another dealer because he's not, as manufacturer A, the dealer's not kind of ordering some things. So to answer your question in that part, there is some financial incentive for the manufacturer to move it.
If that is happening, right?
If that, for example, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only asking because it just seems like, I don't know where my train of thought was. I just lost my train of thought. Somebody was streaming by here, but so I think I was going to say something to the impact of, it seems to me like there's very little incentive unless something is being done detrimental like that, because like what is going to be different at the other dealer other than that scenario change? Like they've got the same, like maybe you have a rock star salesperson, but generally it's the same sales and the same marketing tactics and the same market, and so that would really be one of the only reasons you would pull such a trigger, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's in anybody's interest, either side, to have any change, because the manufacturer has some marketing that he does for that dealer. The dealer does plenty of marketing in that product, develops a little bit of a following. So nobody wants to make a change. And I think it's only in a drastic, and I would think it doesn't happen all that much.
I've seen some relationships go south too. It just becomes hostile. Yeah. What it's over, who knows? There's just a disagreement between the manufacturer and the dealer. And I've seen it go pretty nasty at times. But
which is why we just need women in charge. They don't fight as much over dumb shit.
One was a woman and one was a guy, and it was really funny, So the guy was the aggressive one, and the woman was just like, please.
You're proving my point.
Yeah. But it was just a disagreement, so you don't see eye to eye, and you don't always. I mean, it just happens, Yeah. So you just decide, okay, maybe this isn't the right relationship. For us, it happens. I don't think it happens a lot, but it happens. I mean, it's like anything else. It's business.
Right. Right.
You know what I was going to say, Angie, starting up a new association, you get guys to join, which is, a big part, right? But the other part is to try to get more involved in the, in the board. And that's often becoming harder, I think, these days to get people to volunteer their time. And as a new association, cultivating that, change and the structure and having a long list of people wanting to pitch from the bullpen is important.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I think our big thing is we started with a really strong board, but just trying to get some transition and make it kind of like a wider network is a good thing. They're kind of tight knit with some of their people who they work with, I guess, and stuff like that. So it's a good, nice core group of people, but they're getting close to retiring. So then trying to get new people up to want to take on that role. And especially here in Wisconsin, anything during like the spring, summer, and fall, you can not get a hold of them because they're doing deals, the sales, all that kind of stuff. So we have a meeting. We try and get a couple Zoom meetings in, even if it's just to say we had a Zoom meeting. And then they're like, we can meet in December. That's it, for our annual conference. They're like, okay, well, there's Christmas, so I guess we're meeting here. So.
Do you guys have a show?
No, we do not do shows. We don't do our own shows. There are shows that are owned by different promoter groups or bought in by some of the larger dealers and stuff like that. But our industry, we can't afford to purchase the show from different promoters. We don't have enough capital yet. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So now that you said you're getting a piece of legislation passed soon. Congratulations, which is fantastic. So it's all about, when you're an association or an alliance, it's all about engagement, right? And the members, especially if they're paying members, are going to ask, what do I get back? This is great, but where do you go from here? Do you have other projects that you're working on that's engaging you with your members that will keep you going?
Yeah, the next thing the board wants to work on is do a sales tax exemption for out-of-state customers. And I know there's a couple other states who have tried that and have failed, unfortunately. And I know we're one of the lowest sales tax states in the nation, so it's kind of a hard sell. The problem just being is, I guess, when they purchase one here and they go back to a different state, they're supposed to honor the sales tax according to, there's a Supreme Court case that ruled on that about interstate commerce. But a lot of them don't understand. And how are you supposed to argue with the person at your, Department of Motor Vehicles who's just behind the counter going, no, well, you owe a fee. I don't get this, kind of thing. So a lot of people will not buy because of they know the state they're going into, they're going to have to pay an additional, whatever it is, 10% or 12%. So yeah. And I'm surprised our dealers talk about how many people come from other states just because of the price, the sales point price of RVs in Wisconsin too, which I find interesting, how they just differ from region to region and stuff like that. So
yeah, let's speculate on that wildly without any data. That is interesting, isn't it? Because I could understand like country to country maybe. Right. But even that, even that, like coming from America to Canada, things are, quote, more expensive in the number of dollars you see in front of you, but by the exchange rate, they're actually, for the most part, the same, unless you think of things like gas, which have more taxes associated with them up here. But why would that be the case? Why would something be different state to state? Because the dealer still has the same costs. So why would you want lower margins in some places and higher margins in the other? Is it because of the income of the population, the willingness to buy? What would be the reasons for that? Anyone who wants to? Yeah,
wouldn't it be more of a freight savings? Wisconsin's pretty close to Indiana, right?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. They talk about a lot of people who come from California. I'd love to see this data, the sales figures, but sometimes that's hard data to get because they don't want to share.
California maybe with a higher, what taxes would be associated? California for sure taxes the heck out of everybody for everything, right?
Right.
But I'm trying to imagine what else besides sales tax would come into play.
Yeah, I don't know. Wisconsin's only a 5% sales tax state, so we're real low for that. But I don't know. Yeah, they find that very interesting, but that's their big drive is to.
Shane, go ask ChatGPT to speculate.
Freight.
Go ask ChatGPT to speculate. And see
there's only two variable costs really. It's freight and tax, I think. So I think,
but even freight, freight wise, you're if you're saving that money on freight, why not just take a healthier margin? And then consumers expect the same price uniformly, except for the tax.
Yeah,
I don't know. Again,
can answer you there.
Yeah.
If a guy can make the same margin, but sell it for less and sell more, then.
Well, okay, that's true, and so that's what I'm asking: is the data there to support that? And if it is, I'm sure it must be if they're adjusting this, right? We just don't know because I don't know because I'm outside the industry.
Yeah,
so
I'm
to
not
speak.
sure. But I remember this is going back probably 12, 13 years ago. I remember going to a Jayco show up in Milwaukee and playing golf with the Jack Links group. Mm-hmm. They own I didn't realize this, but they own a RV dealership. Is that true?
Oh,
you didn't know that?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, they're. I think they own one or two anyway. Big, and they were really good guys. And we got talking about Jack Links, which is huge. I'm sure it's big down there, big up here. Beef jerky and those little sausages and everything. You get all the gas stations. And
I have
Yeah,
no
they,
idea what you're talking about, but I'll assume that you're right.
you don't really?
No.
Jack Links. Do a AI search, Brian. On Jack.
I'm like one of those hippie millennial people that eats organic stuff. So that's probably why I don't know.
Oh,
Anyway, it was interesting how you got these guys getting in the RV industry. So, but it was a really good show. I remember going around, driving through. It started with an M, Mikasa, on the way from Chicago.
I don't know. From Chicago, you do Kenosha and
Maybe
then
that was it.
Racine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Yeah.
start with an M, does it? But anyway, it was a great. I really like Milwaukee. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It is nice, and they do put a lot of good shows on. I'm surprised they just how much turnout comes to their shows. It can be snowing, it can be, sleeting, slushing, ice, and you'll still get a lot of people who come out for these RV shows. I think people in Wisconsin just get super excited that spring's gonna come eventually, that they want to go see something they can use outside. Yeah.
And look forward to something, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, we're kind of the same up here.
Right. Yeah.
I'm in Indiana.
Yeah, we get a little itchy for summer come February, March. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
So I'm interested. Let's Shane. Let's talk briefly because, I know you're definitely a valuable addition to the show every week, but I feel like we've never really dived into some of the manufacturer stuff in detail. And so I'm curious. I want to open that for you to talk about anything you think we should talk about. But my questions are, I think, mostly related to what we're seeing in the economy. Are manufacturers struggling with having to raise prices for their parts? Is that impacting who they can sell, how much they can sell, who's buying from them? How do they balance all this inflationary stuff is my opening question. And then if there's anything else that you have that you feel is important from a manufacturer standpoint.
Your first question, not as much today as it was in 2020 and 2021 when we're going through those supply chain issues. Our guys up here, I can talk about our Canadian guys a little bit better. Usually they're using local suppliers for the most part. Some of the common things they might have to get elsewhere, like Indiana, but as they always try to get something from their common guys. And I think the prices have come down on in the last year or so on those parts, just because it's a little bit freer flowing now. We are seeing more people looking to build up here, which is great to see. Back in the early to mid 70s, Canada had about 80 or 90 RV manufacturers, and some of them were Canadian owned or only, and others were just a U.S. based manufacturer, but with a Canadian location. But through time with free duty and the dollar going to par, we lost a great number of them throughout the last probably 30 years, and now we're down to about 10 or 12 up here. And but we're seeing some more interest, especially on from some van conversion guys who now want to start building Class B motorhomes and smaller travel trailers. So it's I always try to help out as many of the Canadians who want to get going with hooking them up with certification and accredited companies that way to kind of guide them, because we often get a lot of calls on what to do. Where some of these guys they don't have a clue how to get going, and most of them probably won't meet the threshold, but hopefully there's a few of them that do. Today was a good day up here in Canada, Brian. You probably know. I was looking at our stats, and last year when our interest rates started to go up, we seemed to hit a wall in the wholesale shipments starting in June for the rest of the year. And we had a rate cut of 0.25%. I think it was in April, if I'm not mistaken. And we had another rate cut announced today of another 0.25%. So we're down to 4.5. They're talking about some more rate cuts, hopefully by the end of the year. So I'm really hopeful that this is going to be a breath of fresh air for the industry and a lot of people, given the more disposable income as well on housing and whatnot. But it was important to make that decision today, I think, especially for our industry, because I think this is going to be a good impetus, hopefully, for the rest of the year, retail wise. I think people are waiting for that. So, I'm excited about the rest of the year up here.
Do you think that, and I recognize that there's no clear answer to this, obviously I agree with what you just said, that lower interest rates for the industry are definitely better. Do you think that's really the holdup for the consumer, though? Because the price of goods and services and groceries and gas and everything else is still heavily inflated, whether their loan has to be maybe a few $100 or $1,000 cheaper. There's still, is that disposable income instantly going to come back overnight? I'm skeptical.
Yeah, you raise a good point. I don't know, there's still a lot of money out there, and I don't know the percentage of RV purchases in Canada that have loans versus not loans.
Okay.
But perhaps people were waiting. If they have equity in their homes, for example, maybe they're just waiting for things to balance out and to have a better, maybe the stock market to get a little bit better or what have you. So, I think.
Well, actually, it's interesting because I think it's an easier path to recovery in Canada. And again, I'm no economist, right? I think it's an easier path to recovery because of interest rates in Canada than it is in the United States, primarily because of the housing situation. Most people up here have a short-term fixed rate, which rolls over every 3 to 5 years, right, for their homes, which means that when that interest rate comes down, that can dramatically save them quickly on their housing payments, right, which gives them more of that discretionary income, where the U.S. is mostly fixed for 30 years. So people aren't seeing that up and down savings of, companies still are in the United States, absolutely, but people aren't.
Yeah, I think I saw a stat between 50% and 75% of households in Canada their mortgage was due in the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's bottom during COVID, yeah.
So and that if the interest rates didn't come down, people were renewing at a significantly higher, probably 2 to 3 points higher, which would have been brutal. Hopefully by the time they're all ready to renew, we're starting to go back down, so there'll be less of an impact for them.
Yeah, and then that just helps the whole circle of as long as they can keep the inflation for everything else under control. Sorry to bore you guys down there in the States.
No, it's
not at all.
It's very interesting to hear that because, you look at the U.S. side of things are not going well, right? Interest rates are high, and that's the number one thing that affects sales of units here. Gas prices really doesn't affect it much. It's the interest rate, and there's no clear relief from it for this year anyways. It's an election year, and what an election.
But again, it's not and I recognize how controversial this topic is, and that people, so if you guys don't want to answer a question, I'm happy to be the controversial guy.
No.
But from my perspective, when interest rates get cut, it helps people at the top. It does not help the people underneath.
I think
it might make them more comfortable taking out a loan.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually put more money into their pockets, is what I'm saying.
Correct. I think it's more of a psychological thing, right? When you're looking at a payment in an RV, even if you're not a higher up, you're kind of more of the middle to lower in that price range. They're still looking at those interest rates thinking, and they're going to figure out how much they're going to pay for the unit plus interest, right? And it's going to be bad. And not to mention when you roll it off the lot, these things don't hold their value.
Just like a car does. Yeah.
So,
that's why I only buy Jeep Wranglers, because they don't. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is like that. But in this year, I've been in this industry for so long, I recognize this. Every 4 years, it's tough. As soon as there's any kind of uncertainty in the air about an election, even though they know not a lot's going to change overnight, people just start kind of going to the mattresses and, saving their money.
To be fair, something changed overnight on Sunday, Susan. So some things you changed.
Wow, yeah, that it's unprecedented. Yeah, but quite truthfully, unprecedented. But yeah, so this year's even worse. It's just there's so much in the air, and it just makes people squirrely, and and you take the interest rates along with it, and people are just like, not doing it. I'm just going to hold on to my money and see how everything happens. What happens.
But is it just the president? And you guys can tell me to shut up if you don't want to talk about economics, right? But is it just that presidential election though? I think it's much more than that as a fundamental underlying thing.
It is, but if you look at statistical the statistics every 4 years.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you. It impacts it. Yeah. I just don't know that it's all of it.
I don't know. I don't know what the underlying thing is, but anybody who's been in this industry long enough knows when it's an election year, things get a little soft. People get a little bit.
It's the same thing in camping and stays at camp. Shane knows that from running the association for so long, the other association. CCRV. Well, you ran CCRV.ca, and then they just changed the name when you left, Shane. I don't know why. Was that Shane's ringtone?
Do you think people? And I know the manufacturing side because it's what in the aftermarket side. But do you think people are less likely to go out and use the campground and the campers during those years too?
Yeah, we like Scott Baer has data on this, so we've been working on him for our reports with Modern Campground we put out for the industry. That election years, like camping goes down, but also like we've seen this in our data. Like we've seen, because I run the marketing agency. We work with 450 campgrounds and RV parks, and we look at this SEO data, and we've seen from reservation standpoint, like 9 to 20% ish less camper nights this year, generally across the board. Now there are exceptions to that, right? But generally speaking, as an average, 9 to 20% less camper nights across the entire United States. Some people are better, some people are worse. But if you're managing your revenue, then you can still make that up a little bit, right? From a revenue perspective, we're seeing people down single digits or up single digits or flat. And then we also seen a declining interest in search, which is the more this is what we've been telling clients. We look at searches in Texas for RV parks, RV resorts, campgrounds. We look at searches in Florida, and we see these keywords when people are just typing in RV park or typing in campground for campground near me. They're down 18 to 30%. People searching, which means they're not even interested in considering it at all year over year, May to May, June to June. So we know this is softening. It just feels way more harsh than a typical presidential election.
No, I agree with that. It's way more harsh. 4th of July, I went camping in a state park in Ohio and just outside of Columbus. And I cabined it because I don't have an RV anymore. Did that for many, many years. But half the cabins were probably empty when we went around in the actual campsites. There were campsites open, and it just kind of floored us. We were just like, wow, this is totally opposite from where we came through on COVID. And we thought maybe it was just the campground, maybe it's just not a favorite campground. It was beautiful, but I don't know. So that makes sense then.
It's almost everywhere, right? And when you think about it, if I'm a consumer and I took 3 vacations or 2 vacations in my RV or at a cabin rental or whatever a year, and all of a sudden I'm staying less camper nights. It's not just that maybe I was staying 4 nights each of those and now I'm going to stay 3 each of those. It's I'm going to take 2 vacations instead of 1 vacation, or 1 vacation instead of 3. And then where are you going to condense all those vacations to? Well, if you're in the States, outside of the really southern states that are warm all the time, you're probably going to condense that into July, because the kids are going back to school into August, right? And that's typically the warmest month. You want to be guaranteed the best weather for your 1 vacation. And so that's we've seen people who were down consistently in May, June, kind of up in July. And then there's a softening that they're seeing continuing in August and September. And we're not there yet to see that data, but it's all signs are pointing to that happening. So, and then you're going to be more picky too. Like you're going to cheat. Like if you were a family, right, Susan or Shane or Angie, if you're a family and you're going to go camping, but now you're going to only take one vacation instead of 3, you better believe you're going to look more closely at those campgrounds and figure out which one is the difference maker that has the really, really special experience for your one vacation a year, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so now these campgrounds are not prepared for this. They're they've been operating at a pace really since 2012, where they can just build a campground and people show up. But now you've got, like, it's not enough to just have an RV site and a swimming pool. Like, you have to, what is your experience? Everybody's got a pool. Everybody's got a pad.
Yeah.
But so I think this is going to be the same with the dealers too, in some extent, with the manufacturers. Like, what actually sets your RV apart? Cool, you have a different floor plan and the hallway's a little bit off, and maybe the bedroom's a foot or 2 different square footage, and you have an extra cabinet. But what really is going to set you apart? I think that's what's coming. And I don't know how that shakes out. I'm definitely no expert, but
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think they're going to look at quality. You know, a bit of a black eye during the COVID months when they were pumping them out, and you know, people are not going to be willing to pay that price without that quality to follow.
No,
right.
Go ahead.
Or that,
Go ahead, Angie, finish, and then Shane looks like he really wants to talk. He's like,
oh, I was going to say, or that being able to get your RV repaired is a big thing too, that we hear from consumers in Wisconsin a lot is they'll buy an RV, but then if they need something repaired, especially something specialty, like they put solar on the top, solar panels or something, there's not that many dealers who can service that warranty work. So that, I know that's a bigger thing that's been trying to be worked on a national level, is being able to provide those services and that
consumer mindset too, right? Like, I'm sorry that you were delayed. I didn't mean to talk over you. But this is also consumer mindset too. This is like, why should any consumer have to go to think about purchasing an RV, and before they purchase it be like, geez, I don't know where I'm going to get service for this thing? Shouldn't you just assume that it's going to work for a few years? Without, like, I don't think about that when I go buy a car. Like, where are the Jeep dealers where I'm going to be traveling for the next
Normally you're buying a car because you're servicing your other one too often and you want a new one.
And you want a new one. So that whole perception is, and I know that perception is wrong in many cases, that they don't often need service that much. So, like, I'm not throwing the dealers under the bus or the manufacturers under the bus, right? But, like, there is that perception out there, and you need to fix that. And the way to fix that is to build quality things that for sure don't need repaired for ideally like at least 5 years, right? Other than oil changes and stuff like that. Go ahead, Shane. You look like you're like either ready to kill me or you want to talk, or
no. I was just wondering, when you say about the people going to campgrounds is less, but when you see the airports and all that stuff, so they're taking vacations. People are going somewhere, right? Yeah. So I guess you got to ask yourselves why aren't they going camping again? Did we lose some people through COVID? I know some people were.
Yes, we for sure lost people through COVID.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we're lost people net from 2019, but I think we lost people through COVID. Yeah.
I think some people didn't like it, which is fair, you know, and said, no, can't do that. They tried it, whatever, that's great. I think some people, because they were cooped up and they love to travel overseas or whatever, or like, oh, yay, way back, you know, we can go do that trip again, but they're not giving up on camping maybe, and just not camping like they were when they couldn't travel. But you had a guest a couple months ago, Brian, from Australia that said their international traveler coming to Australia was way down still. So where are they going?
Yeah, I don't really have data in front of me to present that, right? I think you're overall starting to see travel softening. Like, I think there's more people who are in airports for sure than there probably are, like, to Shane's point, right? And again, some of this is speculation on my part based on what we see and what I don't know, I'm weird and I obsessively watch a bunch of videos on economics and everything else. But I think and this is for sure going to be controversial, what I'm going to say. But if you look at what I just said about RVs and campgrounds and how people are going to have raised expectations of the experience at RV campgrounds, we can all kind of agree on that, right? Less campers means you're going to have more choice, means you're going to be able to choose the best fit for whatever experience you want, right? Like, impress me. make it worth my one vacation a year. Is that fair? We're all agreed on that?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so then take that to the rest of the United States, and let's be blatantly like clear. Like if you outside of really nice, amazing like Grand Canyon, okay, and there's certainly like beautiful places all over the United States. I'm not saying that, but when you're in an RV driving town to town, and I did this, like I traveled for 4 straight years to every state in a Jeep. And went to every city in the little back road town, like not every city, right? But you understand what I'm saying? Like I drove a lot for 4 years, and almost every town looks the same. They all have the same strip malls. They all have the same Walmarts. They all have the same gas stations. They're all the best undiscovered, most historic place that nobody's ever heard of, and the best kept secret. And again, nature for sure. There's plenty of beautiful reasons to go to all the national parks and lots of the state parks and see waterfalls. And there's so many beautiful things in the States. But outside of that, like a lot of it is the same. Whereas, and hear me out, like I can go to Europe and I can drive 2 hours between cities and it's radically different. So maybe it's I want to experience something different more so than it's a choice between RVs and not RVs.
I'm going to give you a different take. What I see.
I want it because I'm not saying I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm right.
During COVID, how often we hear all these people are buying RVs, but they couldn't find campsites.
Mm-hmm.
Now the perception is still the same. It's I'm not buying an RV because I don't have anywhere to go. That's what I've heard. Right. So it's up to the industry now to say, we've got availability, and I don't think we do that as well or as much as we should.
I agree.
Message, campers to say, hey, try us. We got availability. There's the odd post, but we need to change the perception of RV owners that they can find spots now, because maybe they only think, well, I better book 9 months in advance, and then if I don't, then I'm never going to be able to go anywhere, as opposed to, geez, I want to go camping in 2 weeks. Where do I go? If they know that or think that, hey, I'm going to find a spot, maybe they'll go out more. They'll use them more,
Well, I think the people who already own an RV are not the biggest issue here. It's the people who are going to try to purchase an RV, because then you've got an even bigger selling point, right? Then you've got to come to that person and say, like, you need to buy a $500,000 rig or drop $80,000 on a towable, and you jump on a plane. You don't have to buy the plane to go to Europe. So that's a much heavier lift in a down economy with high interest rates. Right?
Yeah.
So that has to play into it too.
Yeah. In Wisconsin, I will say the Wisconsin Campground Owners Association does a fabulous job of going into all the dealerships, and they actually provide a booklet and stuff to
Waco is great. Lori's amazing.
Yeah, all the amenities and stuff that each park has, and if it has RV sites or not. And we actually just got some legislation passed too in our last annual budget, because we had a really weird arbitrary cap on the number of electrified sites you could have in a state park. And it was at 35%, which was weird. It was like all the state parks in Wisconsin, you could only have 35%. And there's some extremely popular ones in Wisconsin that, if you don't get there on the first day the booking opens, you're not getting a spot. So our Department of Natural Resources was super happy about that, to be able to open up more opportunities for RV users. So.
And I think the important thing too to share from my perspective is that I'm not negative on our industry at all, on the RV side or the campground side. Like, I think we're going to be fine. I just see a lot of campgrounds specifically calling me, but also hear anecdotally about meetings and things, for the RV industry, mostly in the States, but where there's I'll just wait it out and things will be magically better next year. And I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think we're in a 2 to 4 year window, and that's not even counting what if AI really does start to impact jobs, which it is going to, because right now people still have their jobs and they still have their paychecks and they still have their discretionary income, even though it might go a little bit less purchasing power wise. So again, I think if you do your marketing right, if you're building quality rigs, if you're like, I think you're going to be fine. But the difference maker is, what is the difference maker for you? Because it's going to be a smaller market, but if you're building quality, if you're delivering quality, if you have good experiences, if you have good marketing, then you're fine, right? Like, I'm not negative here. I know that sounds negative coming out of my mouth, right? But go ahead, Shane. If you have any thoughts, like, you look really grumpy at me.
No, I'm not that. I'm not as pessimistic as you. I think for you guys, and I'm not close, but I think once you get by the election, I think things are going to get better sooner rather than the 3 or 4 years. And I just I think I feel that the industry is going to be really bright. It's just we had such a I should say a wide range of extremes in the last 3 or 4 years. We had the highs and the lows for us, and I think we just need to get back to a balanced atmosphere here. So, and I think that'll come.
I think you're right. I mean, we were due for a correction before COVID hit. Then COVID totally took that off the table. And I think we're just going through that unknown, a little bit of a correction. And I think Shane's right. I think we'll level off at some point. But there's definitely always room for improvement in everything we do to make it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, I hope I'm wrong.
Well, don't they say the worst habits are developed in the best of times? So, I think people are going to have to, get back to the basics now that, it's more of a fight it's not fishing in a barrel anymore like it was.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So, like, again, the people who are the expert fishermen in the barrel, who know where, what bait to use and what lure to use and all that, like, they're going to be fine. And I think that's going to be like 75% of the industry if they figure out how to do their marketing right, tell their story, and do a unique experience. So that doesn't mean you have to build $1 million water park. It means warm cookies and friendly staff and something.
It's opportunity.
It's very easy right now to differentiate yourself in the campground industry because almost nobody is doing it. And I don't know what the RV side of it looks like, right? But based on the shows that we have here and the talks about all the service wait times and repairs and the mindset of the consumer, that seems like a relatively easy thing to fix too. Build better things. And we're not even talking about the real controversy thing, which is maybe China's going to ship RVs over here. So, anyway, like, I'm not saying I'm in favor of any of this stuff. I'm just saying this is how I look at it, right? This is not the world I want. This is the world I'm reading right now. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Any final thoughts we have from everybody? Let's end on a positive note. Shane, your job. Pick a positive thing.
No, positive thing. I'm coming down to Indiana next month to watch one of our fellow Canadians get inducted in the Hall of Fame. Terry Elias from Triple E Motorhomes, and a bunch of us guys from CRVA will be down there, and ladies, and looking forward to that. It's always always nice. I think Terry will be, if I'm not mistaken, either the 5th or the 6th Canadian in the RVMH Hall of Fame. So we're all pretty pumped up about that.
Yeah, go Canada. Awesome. You need more than 5 or 6. We just need nominating. You guys are up there. I think that's how many women.
Yeah.
Angie, give us something positive.
Well,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did I cut you off, Shane? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm going to be at the same event as Shane, but going there to see Phil Ingrassia get nominated into the Hall of Fame.
There you go.
So.
Boy, Phil's still young. He's only 35,
How many times?
It's gonna be a surprise for him. I'm not wading into that. So, Susan, end us with a positive thing that you're excited about.
So like I mentioned earlier, next month we're going to have Women's Equality Day celebration at the RV Technical Institute. It's free. We're going to have food trucks. We're going to have a lot of networking. People are going to be able to go inside the building and see how they test. And it's a bunch of organizations, RVIA, RVDA, RVTI, and RVWA, a lot of acronyms, coming together, which is amazing to be able to come together as a group like that and celebrate something like that. So can't get much better.
Awesome. Well, Susan, where can they find out more about the RV Women's Alliance?
RVDA.org.
Angie, our Wisconsin RV Dealers Alliance, where can they find out more about your organization?
RVWisconsin.org.
And Shane,
www.CRVA.ca.
All right. Well, thank you guys for putting up with some of my bullshit today and my economic theories that have no basis in fact or truth, but appreciate you sitting here and listening to me anyway.
Great conversation.
Yeah.
Hope you guys, really appreciate it. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of MC Fireside Chats. We'll see you next week for our open, well, maybe not. We might have a special show, I think, next week. But anyway, we'll see you next week for another show.
This is a special show.
Yeah.
Well, like we have our 5th week. Like sometimes there's 5 Wednesdays in a month, right? Is what I mean. So
Gotcha.
All right. But thank you guys. I appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
All right.
Bye.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
This episode of MC Fireside Chats with your host, Brian Searl. Have a suggestion for a show idea? Want your campground or company in a future episode? Email us at hello@moderncampground.com. Get your daily dose of news from moderncampground.com. And be sure to join us next week for more insights into the fascinating world of outdoor hospitality.